I guess to start with, this week's taught me, if it's taught me anything, it's really to choose my words carefully. Earlier in the week, I think when we heard of the hurricane coming through and we began to hear the stories that were taking place, Matt Veza, one of the members that have been here and that has provided a presentation to you all as part of this summit. In the last few years, him and I had a conversation. I mentioned to him, if there's anything at all that we could be doing, by all means, please let us know. Well, I think it was not a few hours after making the statement that he took good on that and asked me that if I would replace one of our asset managers, Matt Leggett, and come speak to you all. So I think Greg Todd, I appreciate him laying up one for me and saying a local guy that does not have public speaking experience, but we'll get through the presentation here. So. Our presentation's top-tier technology and innovations driving results. Newfield at a high level is an independent E&P company headquartered in the Houston area. Like Anadarko, a lot of our folks have been displaced and our offices remain closed. I was happy to hear, just as of yesterday, they had made a significant contribution to the local American Red Cross there. In addition to the contribution, a letter went out earlier in the week, a note to all of the employees in the Houston area, specifically that Newfield to support them where is needed. In addition to the support where is needed, whether we needed to get people to help them evacuate, to provide just extra housing. I've heard of a couple stories, employees staying with coworkers. But to not worry about work, to focus on themselves and their families as a priority first, and then really to go out in the communities and where they live, if they've been fortunate enough to not have gotten flooded, to do what they can out where they live to make an impact to the community there. So. At a high level, I guess Newfield was founded in 1988. They went public in 93, traded on the stock exchange there as NFX. Annual revenue in the way of $1.5 billion by producing over 55 million barrels per year. With proven reserves at the end of last year of over 500 million barrels. This year's budget is just over $1 billion. With most of that spend going to the Oklahoma assets. And I'll cover a little bit more of that in the next few slides. The pie chart, if you can make it out on the left-hand side, the green big portion of that, you may not be able to see it, is the Anadarko Basin. Most of our production comes from that, about 65%, with the orange and the light blue just below that, out of the Rockies, that being the Uinta and the Williston Basin. We expect our domestic production to be up over 8% year over year, and the pie chart on the right really represents how much of our capital investment of that $1.1 billion it goes directly into drilling completion programs. Not a lot of the way in infrastructure and land investments. I think it's worth noting that over $1 million will be spent testing new formations, and that's across all the assets that we have, the areas that we operate. Williston Basin, I think I skipped through a little quickly there, the first slide. The Williston, the Uinta, the Anadarko, and the Arkoma. More specific to the Uinta Basin, Newfield entered the Uinta Basin through an acquisition of Inland Resources back in 2004. That was just in the GMBU area there. We've since expanded to about 215,000 net acres by way of acquisitions and our partnerships with the Ute tribe. Today's net production's in the neighborhood of 16,000 barrels per day, with the expectation of being closer to 19 to 20,000 by year end. We do that through producing over 1,500 oil wells and 900 secondary water recovery injection wells that are located in the GMBU area there. We have just over 300 employees hired at the Newfield office, with at least that many contractors almost on a daily basis. One of the things that we'll talk about specific to the drilling program in the Central Basin area there that you see on the map is the horizontal program that we're active in now. Some of the history around Newfield and horizontal type drilling that we do here and applying top tier technology to the basin started about 6 years after the acquisition of Inland. In 2010, we drilled our first horizontal well in the GMBU. We've since drilled almost 100 horizontal wells across our entire acreage position here. We tested at least 8 different prospective zones through horizontal drilling. One of the bigger ones, the super extended laterals, I don't know if it went to sleep. Super extended laterals that extend almost 2 miles in a specific pay zone. For anybody who's not as familiar with horizontals or super extended laterals, I don't know that the dash line on the far left of the lower diagram comes out well, but the red one, we drill those things vertically about almost 2 miles deep before we go into the curve and extend horizontally almost 2 miles. The red one represents targeting an interval or a zone in the Uintah Butte there. We're proud and really happy with the relationship that we've had with Mr. Baza and UDOGM in general to create 45 DSUs. Those are drill spacing units that approve this type of development, the horizontal development. This is the type of development that we're not only applying here with the one rig program that we have in the Uinta Basin, but it's really the type of drilling we're doing in all areas of the company today. All the wells this year will be drilled horizontally. The picture on the top there that kind of looks like an Excel spreadsheet is the drill spacing unit relative to the Central Basin area, and kind of shows you where we're looking at those type of wells. This slide is really intended to show how we've applied the learnings and top-tier technology into the program here in the Uinta Basin. The picture on the top right, if you can make it out the bar chart there, the blue columns represent Williston Basin and the red ones Central Basin. Within a number of years, we've been able to reduce our cycle time through new innovations and applying lessons that are learned from one basin with the type of activities that we have to the adjacent basins. So over the course of 7 years, we were able to reduce the drilling days by 70% by applying those same types of learnings and the same types of people working those learnings. We've been able to get the same reduction in almost four years in Central Basin. The bottom line with that is that with one rig just drilling in Central Basin over the last year and those type of wells and those type of reductions, we've been able to increase our net production by double within a 1 year time frame. Similarly, on the bottom right shows the same picture and representation, Williston Basin, the completion sizes through some new techniques and innovations there. To increase the size of completions that support that production. It took us seven years to get to about 3 times the size of completion we initially started the horizontal program in Williston Basin, 4 in Central Basin. More specifically, on the production, and the next slide will be the investment back to Utah through this production. Since 2004, Newfield's invested $3.2 billion to date. Since coming into the Uinta Basin, I think we've more than doubled our net production and produced over 80 million barrels through that same time frame. The contributions, somewhere in the neighborhood of $200 million in tribal revenues, $8 million annually in royalty and severance taxes to the state of Utah. The counties have received somewhere in the neighborhood of $8 million in sales and ad valorem taxes. And we've really invested back into the workforce of the basin at an annual wage of $60 million through wages and benefits. In addition to the wages and benefits, the folks that are hired full-time through Newfield have benefited through career development, And I guess that would mean career development and opportunities to speak in front of you best I can. There are also additional career opportunities. A lot of our folks that are very talented here have had the opportunity to go where is needed throughout the company in the Anadarko, and proud to say some of those folks are managing things out of Houston, the Woodlands office now. In addition to operating, we haven't forgot our corporate responsibilities and the things that we hold dear. Safety, first and foremost for us. We talk about it every day. It is a core value, and it takes every one of our employees and every one of our contractors to achieve a safe record. We talk about it often, that there's no job worth doing that would impact somebody's health or safety. We expect everybody to go home in the same way they showed up, without an injury. I'm very proud to say that this year, so far to date, including our contractors, we've had no reportable incidents. Company-wide since 2012, through a number of safety initiatives, we've been able to reduce the same incident rate by 60%. And this is in conjunction with a lot of the programs that the contractors are working with us through. We're constantly bouncing ideas to improve one another's programs. In addition, the water conservation through 2016, we were able to reclaim and reuse through the facilities that we have in the GMBU over 95% of the water the produced water that we have here in the basin. Air quality reductions between the time frames of 2014 and 2016, 37% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions and 65% reduction in CO emissions. Primarily driven by a new leak detection and repair program that goes above and beyond current Quad A requirements. In addition, a lot of high bleed pneumatic controls devices have been updated, upgraded, and places that we've been able to apply new technologies to. High volume pneumatic pumps replaced with new technologies like solar pumps. In addition to our corporate responsibilities and more to one of the ones that hits home, and I mentioned the contribution there to the local Red Cross down in the Woodlands. Newfield Foundation, since its inception in 2001, it's a program that's employee driven. The company's, it's a foundation that was set up to give back to the areas that we operate within, all of the basins. Since 2001, we've been able to donate and change lives, I guess, in those basins to the tune of almost $9 million. Utah specifically, since being in the basin in 2004, we've been the recipient of almost $1.25 million. There's a few of the pictures, the folks that volunteer with those programs that help out, and really, aside from the contributions that the company makes, there's a lot of volunteerism that takes place with our employees. And some of those, in addition to the ones that are mentioned on the board, I'll cover in the next slides. With over 300 employees here locally, spread throughout the Uinta Basin, there's not too many events here that we're not participating in, our employees aren't part of, that we're not sponsoring. We're proud to be out there doing these things. Just a couple of the key ones that have been around for us and that we really participate and push are the field cleanup. One of the local guys is actually a vernal guy. Riley Brinkerhoff is a geologist now for us out of the Woodlands office. And Matt Beza, we coax a few of those guys from the Woodlands and some of the other operating basins to come help us with the field cleanup there. That's one of the initiatives that we picked up from the Inland Resource Bunch. And this year, it's been the 20th annual field cleanup that we've put on throughout the field. The other big one that we like to participate in, and I'd like to pick out or point out from the two pictures there, is the Ashley Valley Food Pantry Drive. The food pantry services the Duchesne, the Uinta, and the Daggett County areas. This year alone, we donated more than 23,000 pounds and $5,000 to the program. In the last 3 years, we've donated more than 55 tons of food to that program that stays here in the basin and supports the local effort. This is an employee-driven initiative, but supported best we can, through the company. but this is really our employees giving back to a number of ways out in the community. In addition to a few of the things that are listed up there, the tribal celebration that happens around the 4th of July, the UBIC parade that we're out helping with, Duchesne and Uintah County Fairs, and Altamont Longhorn Days. On the bottom right-hand side there, you see a tribal backpacking trip that Elton Blackhair, he's in attendance today, puts on annually with some of the youth in the area. These are just a few of the initiatives that the tribe has that, as partners that we support with them. One of the ones that stands out, and it's kind of going off script a little bit here, but about a year ago, you may recall in the Basin, we had a lot of rain over a really short amount of time, but a lot of neighborhood residents, especially in Roosevelt, where we're fairly close to, that experienced flooding, you know, in crawl spaces and basements alike. More than 35 of our employees spent, you know, we left work, we covered with what we could, and a lot of them came on their days off to help bringing out trash pumps, filling sandbags, distributing those throughout the area. It hits home because it's about one year from this week that took place. And this picture was in the slide presentation before we started to hear of all the stories that are taking place in Houston. And a few of the co-workers that have literally, you know, they're bunked up with one another because they have experienced flooding and alike. I'm very proud that the company supports initiatives like this, that they make the right decision at the right time. I think it's said best that one of the values, you know, for several of us that work for Newfield, it's nice to work for a company that genuinely aligns values and back to the people, making sure they're taken care of, and getting back and providing community support where we're able to. So, in addition, and the last slide that I have really of our work here, specifically more in the Central Basin area, is a conservation. We call it the Three Trails Reserve. It's a series of wetlands and dams. It's the tune of about 7,000 acres. Since we acquired the property, we've reclamated it. We've reduced some of the invasive species of like Russian olives and tamaracks on and near the dams and ditches. We've installed osprey nests and bat boxes, which are constantly in use. One of the additional things that came just this last winter is scouts, some of the local Boy Scouts approached us to add additional, you know, as one of their projects, to add additional waterfowl nesting platforms. Those, in conjunction with 3 of our employees, spent more than 40 hours to install some more of the wetland fowl, just nesting boxes to continually improve that project and the acreage that we have there. We want to make sure that we're constantly upgrading that. And that we certainly are making an impact and making sure that it's left better than we received it. You know, in closing, whether it's environmental stewardship, the community outreach, company charitable contributions, our corporate responsibility, or bringing top-tier innovations into the basin, we continue to, you know, Team Newfield continues to go above and beyond. Appreciate the opportunity to speak at this year's summit. And more importantly, I appreciate the opportunity to invest and to continue to operate here in the basin. Thanks for your time.